Good evening, welcome to A Foreigner in the Philippines. You would probably, well, maybe in the West you won't have seen this because it's really about life in the Philippines and how life goes on in the Philippines. I'm really talking about the fact that the Philippines exports millions of their people to work overseas, abroad. In fact, it's a well-known phrase, OFW, which means overseas foreign workers. And we address, a lot of our videos are addressed to OFWs because things which other people might see as, well, a lot of people think that we live in some kind of a paradise, which it's a place of incredibly beautiful scenery in almost every direction. So from that point of view, yes, it's paradise. We live very simply, so it's not a luxurious kind of paradise. It's one of peace, and we hope for the future. And when we show walk-arounds, like I did a walk-around tonight, and I looked at the sunset, and I chatted to Talit Lake, and we talked about life here, and it while it's new to anyone else looking, lots of people say I happened on your channel and really enjoyed the videos, and part of that enjoyment is the scenes that they see that we see every day. And one of the things that I always stress is that I work every day in keeping alive the magic of the place that I live in. I think, that lots of people do this. They walk outside their door, and if they live in that kind of a place, they will see something beautiful. And every day that we go out, I do see something of great beauty. And I don't let it flash by without noticing it. Now, it's a sad piece of news that we've just received about the OFW in, let me see, it was in Q8, and she lost her life. She lost her life at the hands of her employer. And one of the things that doesn't quite get acknowledged enough is the fact that OFWs sacrifice their lives in a continuing way, not by giving up their lives as this young woman did, but that they are actually sacrificing their life in the land that they love, because almost without exception, any OFW that writes to me says, I wish I was there. And they thank us for showing simple scenes that remind them of their childhood. When you think about it, Beth is living in the same place that her childhood was spent here. She left home when she was about, I think, just going on 15, and she went to Cebu. So even there she was abroad in a sense. And when we came back here, this has enabled her to return to the place of her childhood and to be with her mother and have quality time with her mother and other siblings. And this is something that escapes the OFW. The OFW gives up years of their lives living in a place that may well be very nice. I mean, when you go to Hong Kong, people may save for years to go for a vacation in Hong Kong, and OFWs are there. But when Beth and I went to Hong Kong a little while ago, a year or so ago, and what we noticed was that Filipinos, especially the Filipinos, congregate together in these places where they're out of the weather. There are places that are flyovers and overhead. There are huge sort of tunnels that you can go through that lead from one side of the road to another, and there's great shelter. And in Hong Kong, the Filipinos actually congregate there, and they come and they cook. Anywhere you go, you're going to find that if there are Filipinos there, Filipinos, they cook. And they congregate and they socialize and they have the pleasure of the company that they're missing when they're actually doing their job. Well, the one that was in Kuwait was for whatever the backstory is there, which we'll never actually know. She did lose her life, and it was only because her family took notice of fortunately she was an OFW, she was a Filipino that made that retained good contact with her family. And of course, when she stopped writing and being in touch, they realized that something was wrong, and the man was caught. So this is the most acute thing that can happen. Obviously, losing your life, what can be worse than that? You're gone, that's it, it's the end of the story. But lots of Filipinos, when they go abroad, actually don't have their preparation in. And what's happening now is that the Philippine government are beginning to take notice on a sliding scale that's increasing. And in fact, I think that the president has now said that for, I think, at least Kuwait, until they've brought in some guarantees for the safety of the Filipino workers there, they're going to disallow Filipinos to go there. And Filipinos are a huge source of the kind of employment that they cannot get in those places, so they're in great demand and they're of great value. Now, what usually happens when a Filipino goes into employment abroad, especially if they go into the Arab states where women do not, this is a fact, that they do not enjoy the same freedom that a Filipino would know and take for granted here in the Philippines. And so on arrival, usually their passport is requested. That's how it seems right then. Can you give me your passport because I have to register you? And that was the most common reason that I heard, was that give me your passport, but they never get it back. Now, if you're a foreigner in a country and you haven't got your passport and you don't have a support system and you are dependent on your very survival on your employer, then you're in a dire situation, because now you are open to any kind of abuse, wages held back, and in some bad cases there can be sexual and violent or abusive, verbal abusive abuse, and it can be a tough life. They are known to work extraordinarily long hours, often with never a day off, and they do that for wages which they will send home to their family. And that's the sacrifice that OFWs make, is they make it for their family. They don't usually make it for themselves. They're not sacrificing in order to have a great life for themselves. They're supporting children, and they're supporting parents, aged parents who need that money. And in fact, they send back huge amounts of money overall as a collective. The Philippine OFW population are a huge contributor to the earnings of the Philippines as a whole. So the government and the Philippines needs them as well as their family, because that money goes through and it's part of the turnover of finances in the Philippines. Now, one thing that I thought maybe might help is if before going to the Philippines, this might help. If they had a copy of their license, of their passport, then that may well prove to be a survival item if things get tough, because then they can prove who they are, that they came in. This is one where they would need to have the copy made, where whatever their permit was, they would have that copied, and then they would keep that and not say anything about that, and have that as a kind of insurance, to be aware that things can go very wrong, and that if that happens, you need to have a way out. That's the thing, is that when OFWs go there, they go there with complete trust and thinking that this is going to be a wonderful experience, even though they must have heard the stories that would contradict that idea. But if you have a way out, then that's going to make things a lot easier, because then all you have to do is get your body out of there and get to the Philippine embassy. Now, if you've got your copy of your Philippine passport, I'm not saying that this is the total legal way to do it, but for instance, when I have had to go to the Philippine immigration here, and at one point my passport was going to be renewed, and they recommended that I simply have a passport, a copy of the passport, and they would work with that if my passport had not come back from the embassy in Manila. So it is a possibility that this will be accepted. Certainly it will be better than rolling up and not being able to prove that you are a legal immigrant into that country, a legal worker. So you can at least prove that, and then the rest of it will be up to the embassy to help you. So that's just a thought on that. I do feel concerned for those women who make this incredible sacrifice for their families, children and family, and their probable aged parents, and I feel badly about that. And my wish for 2020 would be that they didn't have to do that, and that they could come home and be okay. So this is A Foreigner in the Philippines. Thanks for looking in. Bye for now.